Hey, what's up everyone? So today we're doing something that I wanted to put together for a while now, and that is a proper live techno and house template for the MPClive 3 standalone. Meaning no laptop, no external gear, no MIDI controllers, but with the option to expand the template at some point with external gear as well. But it should be functioning on its own in the first place. Also important, we're building this template in a way that it is easy to change up everything, like a track or a plugin or a MIDI track or I don't know, without the need of remapping everything once you changed a track. So that it is a really usable and expandable template that grows with you as you develop more ideas as time goes by. But before we get into the actual setup, I want to quickly talk about why templates matter in the first place, because I think this is something that is not said enough. When you power on a device like this and you have to build everything from scratch every single time you power it on, like routing levels, MIDI settings and stuff like that, it drains you before you actually play the note. And that is a real thing. That is not laziness, it's just how creative momentum works. You sit down with an idea in your head, and by the time you've spent 20 minutes just wiring things up and figuring stuff out, the spark is already gone. So in fact, it can totally kill your flow or productivity. So the MPClive 3 or any of the newer MPC models, it's a serious piece of kit. So it's basically a DAW in a box. And sampling, sequencing, mixing, effects, audio tracks, sample chopping, mastering. So it can do a lot. And that's exactly where a lot of people get stuck, because you have so many possibilities. Because when something can do everything, it's easy to open it up and just not know where to start. That's naturally the reason why people don't like to use DAWs to produce. Like too many options, too many directions, and suddenly you are super deep in a menu rabbit hole instead of making music. So the key here really is not to think about what the MPC can do. It's to think about what you can do for the MPC. No, just joking. No, it's not about to think about what the MPC can actually do, but what you actually need for a standalone techno and house template. I mean, what you really need live, or to sculpt sounds, or to master it and get a proper sound design. So I mean, what's essential, what you will really realistically use on stage or in a jam session, and what you can leave out entirely. So keep it focused, keep it functional. And another big thing worth being honest about, I know everyone is doing modular and stuff and all this self-generating quirky things. This is not a modular rig, as you might know. That kind of 100% organic, anything can happen at any moment improvisation isn't really what this machine stands for and what it's actually built for. And that's fine, but let's just acknowledge that. But what we can do is to plan ahead smart enough so that once we're in it, everything is fine. Everything is reachable and everything is adjustable and playable and interchangeable on the fly. So that even within a structure, there's real room to jam, to react and to actually perform. So that's the goal for today, and that's what we're building here. A proper starting point from where you can just go and jam out. So let's get into it. Okay, here we are at the Live 3. Now let me introduce my concept for this template. And this is a template I am building for myself and what I will actually use to perform my next live sets with. Maybe that is good for you to know. Okay, so here's what we need. On the first track, we need a drum track for all our drums. On the second track comes another drum track, but filled with only like one-shot samples, like weird hits, risers, drops, noise, you know, stuff like that. Third track is going to get a bass synth, and for the sake of this standalone template, I will use a plugin from Air, maybe a Minimo clone or the tube synth, which is also great. Fourth track gets another monophonic synth plugin. Track number 5 gets a polyphonic synth plugin too, and for this case, I will use the Jura plugin because I'm a huge Juno fanboy. On the 6th track, I will create a stem and loop track. And for this, I will use a drum track also and fill it with stems from finished tracks of mine or with like loops I built in the studio. The 7th track is going to be a MIDI track to trigger an external synth if I want to add one later. And finally, the 8th and last track is an audio input track for recording stuff or to feed external gear in, like a synth or like the digitakt for example. And last but not least, we will make a useful mixer routing, smash a sidechain compressor on each track, and create a simple mastering chain on the master output that allows us to compete with the power and clarity of a DJ set. So firstly, you have to create a blank project. I have this, I've done this before. When you double tap on arrange, you go to the clip matrix, and there you can see all the tracks you have. You can also go to the mixer page. There's also one track, and that is already our drum track. I will first lay down the different tracks, and then we'll go through them and choose the actual programs or plugins. So we have on track number 1 the desired drum track. Now we go on the plus sign and add another drum track. I will name it. If you double tap it, you can name it. I will just name it One Shots. Name the drums track also like this. So then I said on this third track we need a plugin, like a bass plugin. I will name that bass synth. Okay. And now on the fourth track we have another monophonic synth plugin. Choose plugin, double tap. I will name it mono synth. The plan is to have 2 mono synths, one for dedicated bass and one for like leads and stuff. Track number 5 gets also a plugin, and here I want to have the what is it called? Jura, but in fact it is a Juno, so I will name it like this. Now we have the 6th track, which is also a drum track, so choose drums, but I will name it stems-loops. Okay. On the 7th track we have a MIDI track. I will name it ext-MIDI. Okay. And finally, on track number 8, we have an audio track, and I will name it like so, audio in. So like that. I hope you guys can see everything. I dimmed the display so that you can see it properly. Okay, so first let's choose the drums. I have created my own drum program at some point, and I will just load it. So when you want to load a drum program, you just highlight the track and go to load over here. And then you can go to places. In my case, I have the MPC SSD, and there I have my folder structure here. And I will go to projects. Projects, no, not projects. Programs. I want to say programs. And then I will go down to drums, this one. Okay. Double tap on arrange. And you go to the clip matrix. This is for me my new main page. Before MPC 3, this was the main page, but I would not say it is useless by now, but for me the clip matrix is the main window. I wish we had a opportunity to switch these buttons so that I can lay my clip matrix view on the main button here, but yeah, I won't complain. So now we have on track number 1 our loaded drum kit. So normally when you highlight a drum track, you can see all the highlighted sounds on the pads, but not this time because we are on bank C. So we have to go to bank A because that's where I started, and here are all the drums. Yeah, so drums already done. So on the second track, this is gonna be a program for one-shots, like as I said, risers, drops, hits, weird percussions, everything what is considered to be a one-shot sample. To fire it up, maybe with a ton of delay on it, or like a weird clap sound, what you can use with note repeat in a break or stuff. But yeah, you have to take the time and choose your samples wisely in order to use them live in a specific way. And that takes time because, yeah, you know, if you are a bit like me, you have tons of samples, and that's because I want to skip this. But what I want to do is I will go to the drums and make the color match. Drums for me always is red. One shots because it's kind of percussion-esque. I will make them like orange or something. Maybe tangerine. Yeah, like this. So next one is the bass synth. You can double tap on the header and you go to this menu, or you can go to edit. There already is a mini Moog preloaded. You can also go to the mixer view and double tap and choose your plugin here like this. Let's leave it with a mini D. Okay, so track number 3 is a bass synthesizer, and now I know it is a mini Moog like this, and I will give him the color orange. So now we have another mono synth, and this has to be tube synth because I like that plugin. It is not really a mono synth, so it can play chords. If you go to edit, when you highlighted a plugin track and you go to edit, there is the surface from the actual plugin, and here are the presets. And if you go down to the end, there's user, and there are your user templates. So if you save a patch, then it is in the user folder on the very bottom. I have a Tröte here, which sounds awful right now, but it is not a monosynth. It is in fact polyphonic, but I will use it as a monosynth. Next one, we have a Juno. So double tap, choose a Jura. That is clearly a Juno synthesizer, and this thing is fun. I can tell you that, because you have this chord mode, and that is pure fun. I can tell you that. I always in every template have one of these, because it is instant dub techno vibe. If you slam a ultra long delay and reverb, and the delay on this, the Delay Pro, is super nice, it has no ending. So you can play with the delay and play with the feedback and at the time. A really long delay, which sounds really nice. And together with the Jura plugin in chord mode, chef's kiss. Okay, so next one is the stems track. I forgot to give the Juno color. Fuchsia. All right. So next one, stems. I haven't prepared anything, but I can show you. This is a drum track, but we don't use it for drums. We use it for playing loops or stems in time, synced in time. That's crucial, because Ableton can do that. We can do that too. And I feel like that the time stretch algorithm on the MPC 3 is super nice. I would say if you are around plus or minus 5 to 10 BPM, then there's no problem with time stretching melodies or drums or, I don't know, vocals. It's gonna be fine. More than that gets a little bit crunchy and weird. Okay, in order to load a stem or a loop, we have to go to edit, and we have to go to load, and we have to go to our place where we have something like that. So for me, it's in the samples folder, in my own samples folder, and then I have something like here, alte loops and stems. I have some digitakt live loops, or I'm working on a loop pack. Now I said it. Okay, now I have to finish that, which is called Italy Loop Pack. That's a working title, because it consists of field recordings I took when I was on honeymoon in Italy for 5 weeks, and I recorded a lot of field stuff, running down the streets and like background noises or street musicians or like people talking in ancient buildings and stuff like that. And I'm building a loop pack out of this, and this is the proper, the actual working state it is in right now. Let's take the first one. So hit load. Important here is that if you create a loop or if you create a stem, always put the BPM number in the title so that you can instantly see in what BPM this thing is recorded. Because when you hit load and go back to edit, Now you are in the actual program for the stems track, and here is the sample we just loaded. This is the time stretch algorithm. It is default on super, and super is the best. Now what is important is you have to hit warp and then hit the BPM the sample is actually recorded in. So it was on 120, but I will just show you. You have to switch warp on and 120 BPM. So the original BPM of the stem you just loaded has to be entered here. Okay, now you first have to select the pad you want to load the sample in and then hit load and load it. What I want to show you now is it is in the right tempo. Speaking of tempo, I just realized that we haven't set the tempo yet. So we go to main and here is the tempo the track is in. I will go with 130 this time and it is still in time. Okay, so if you want to plan ahead, make yourself a concept on how you plan to lay down your loops or stems. For me, I like to think from downwards to upwards. So if you imagine you have 4 rows of 4 different kinds of loops or stems. So for example, the first row from down to up is like percussions. And this is bass, this is chords, this is lead sounds or textures or whatever you might have. And you think from this is one track, this is one track, and this is one track. So if you have percussion loops, bass loops, chord loops for one track, then this will fit in here. And the next track you want to play is the row above, but the same pattern, like percussion, bass, chords, and whatnot. You get it? So like this, you always know in a stem track, where are the percussions, where are the basses, where are the chord loops, where are I don't know what. Because when you play live and you recognize that something out of the stem track is too loud or too quiet, and then you can just go into pad mix and find out if the percussions are too low, then you know that it is something about this row here. I hope you know what I mean. Next one is the external MIDI track. We have to choose on which channel we want to send MIDI to. As we didn't have any MIDI gear connected yet, I will just assume we will go to MIDI port R because the MPClive 3 has 2 different MIDI output ports. So we select MIDI output A on MIDI channel number 1 and that's it. We don't need program change yet. We can do that later. And I will give it a highlighted color like, I don't know, magenta. And audio in gets also the color fire, because audio in for me is always kind of recording and recording is red. Red means recording. Yeah, okay, now I said it. So we have to set some things here. For example, we have to go to the audio routing and set the monitor settings to in, because this way you can hear whatever comes into the MPC the whole time. If it was on auto, then you only hear stuff coming in when this track is highlighted. And if this track is highlighted, then you don't hear the incoming audio anymore. So this has to be on in. So let's assume we plug in a monosynth here. Then we need just input 1, mono signal. And yeah, that's it. If you want to plug something in, like an external synth or a digitakt or stuff like that, then you have to double tap this mixer button. These are your inputs, input 1, input 2. Then you can send the threshold here or the actual volume coming in, or the gain. That's what I want to say, the gain. You can choose between combo jack input, phono input, or a mic input, or none of that. I will use combo the most of the time. And you can also link both together. If you plug in a stereo device, you can just link the outputs and have only one thing to wiggle here. Okay, so that's it for now. Now the setup of the tracks is done. In order to plan ahead our template, because we want to play this template and actually perform and improvise live, if we want to hit record and record something we might be playing, then it would be nice to set up a fixed length for the clips like you could in the Push or in Ableton, so that whenever you want, you can just hit record and record for like 8 bars. So in order to set this up, you could go to this little gear icon here. This is the launch configuration. And there you can go to this one, default length for the bars. I will just go for like 4 bars, and then if I hit record, it will record for 4 bars and then stop the recording and play it. And once it stopped the recording, it will then get looped. And also on the MPC, it is so that it goes from record to overdub mode. So you hit record, it records 4 bars, then it loops, but it stays in overdub mode. So you can always play over the already recorded events or notes or melodies or drums or whatever. Okay, so next one is the routing. And in order to give me the opportunity to interchange or swap plugins or tracks, I have to come up with a different routing. Because at the point when we are adding a MIDI controller to control these tracks, when I map everything and everything is fine, because this takes time, and if you make a mapping for your MIDI controller and delete the track and create another one, then your mapping is broken. Then you have to map it again, or then you have to repair your mapping in a way. So in order to make it structured and easy understandable, I will route all these 8 tracks on submixes. We have to go to I/O, and there you can see all the audio routings. So monitoring for this is auto, send in all ports, send to none, audio out. And currently every track is directly going to the audio output 1 and 2, which is this one. And this goes to FOH or my recording mixer here. So we can double tap that and we can go backwards and select sub 1. And we can do this for all of them. This is MIDI 7, 8. So when I go to the right, you can just slide it. There are the submixes. And these are also going to stereo output 1 and 2. So we send the actual tracks into the submix. As you can imagine, like a bus mixer. And you send a track to a bus and then to the stereo out. And now we could map our 4 send waves we have here. Or we can put here our insert effects. And now we are here. I will do that. But first, I will name that. So double tap. I will probably fast forward this. Okay, so like this, I have named the submixes the same way as the original tracks are called. And pay attention to this one. Track number 7 is a MIDI track. It doesn't have any audio coming in. But in order to not destroy my structure here, I have incorporated here in the submixer as well. And I named it just nothing. And on a MIDI controller, I will then have track number 7 available for other controls like master controls, master filter, master delay, stuff like that. Because on track number 7, I don't have any to MIDI map. Because when I use a MIDI track to control or to trigger an external synth, then the external synth comes into the MPC, the audio comes into the MPC, and then it lands automatically here on track number 8, because when I want to smash a reverb or a delay on the incoming signal, then I have to do it on track number 8, and therefore track number 7 is empty here. I can then use the track number 7 for other things on the MIDI controller. Yeah, that is the routing. Now we are here, and then we can go a little bit further. I will always make the delay long, because this delay sounds super nice. Okay, so here is our stereo output. We want to create a mastering chain. And what do we actually need for a mastering chain is we need an EQ, we need maybe a master filter for breaks, a master reverb, a compressor or multiband compressor, and a limiter. If not, the compressor has a built-in limiter. Okay, so now it's crucial to plan the right order. And for this order, I have in mind, I will have a high-pass filter. To have a master high-pass filter, I can combine with a reverb. Remember, you have to take this down because otherwise you won't hear anything. So then we need a reverb. We'll take the Reverb Pro, make the pre-delay off almost, and play with the decay. And also crucial for this, because this is a master reverb, I will just cut out the lower frequencies. Otherwise it gets louder and louder the longer it gets. Okay, now we need a master EQ. I will take the Air Para EQ, and there you can do all your master EQ stuff, like cut everything beneath 30 Hertz or 35 Hertz or whatever. You can try this out on the venue you are playing. Every venue sounds different. And then if you're lucky, you have a sound check, and then you can play with this and just make the setting for the gig, for the venue, for the night. So, and then I will have a compressor like this, but I will just make the threshold 0 dB because I will then adjust it on the fly. Also remember, you have to dial down the output because otherwise it adds and it gets really loud fast. A compressor is a tool you have to treat slightly and work your way until it actually benefits the sound and not just, you know? Okay. One thing, I forgot one thing, and that is on the main tracks here. So these are the normal tracks, not the submixes, the normal tracks. There I want to have a sidechain compressor on every track. I want to have it on every track because you can then dial it to the way you want it on each track. Like if you had a pad sound, you can dial it even more to get this pumping effect with the bass drum. Or on maybe the one-shots, you just want to have it slightly, a little bit, making more room for the basses and the kick drums and stuff. It's a nice mixing tool. But in order to do that, we have to go to the drums, go to the kick drums, and on the MPC3, we are lucky enough to have something called the Mother Ducker. I know it is the best name possible for a plugin. So we have to go to Pad Mixer. And now, as you can see, these are the pad mixer layouts for all the pads. So what I want to do is I will smash the Mother Ducker input on each of the bass drums. And if I add bass drums later on, maybe on the other banks, I have to repeat that. So on every bass drum, there has to be a Mother Ducker input. And to do that, we select the bass drum, go to Effects, go to Insert, go to Dynamics, search for Mother Ducker. And this is something people get confused by, because the bass drum who is triggering the sidechain on another track gets the input. Like this. There's nothing you have to check or to set up. It is on bus 1. That's okay. You don't have to change anything here. Bus 1 is fine. And that you have to do on every bass drum you might have. Like this. 4 bass drums. 4 inputs. Now you have to go to each single track here and smash the Mother Ducker on it in order to get triggered by the bass drum. So highlight a track, go to the inserts, and now we don't use Mother Ducker input, but we use Mother Ducker. And you see the difference. Now you have the controls for the sidechain compressor. And the threshold is the one that gets interesting, but for now we dial it back to 0 because we will adjust it once the music is running. So, and that we can repeat for all of the tracks. Okay, like that. So I think that's it for this template right now. Let's break this down. We have 8 tracks. We have drums, one-shots. We have a bass synth plugin. We have another mono synth plugin, which also is polyphonic, but we don't tell anyone. We have a real polyphonic Juno. We have room for our stems and loops. And we have track to trigger our external MIDI synthesizers and stuff we might add later. And we have an audio in channel to bring that external gear into our ecosystem. Then we send all these tracks to a submix, and these submixes are always there. So that means you can now just delete the Juno, delete the monosynth, and I don't know, make another stem track if you want, or another CV track, or whatever else you might want to add. And the routing to the submixes is still there. And once we start to add a MIDI controller and map everything to the sends and to the volume knobs and stuff like that, and to the mutes, we don't have to map it again if we delete one of these tracks, because otherwise the mapping would be deleted as well, and then we have to set it up again. But not when we use submixes. They will stay whatever tracks you might add or delete. And then we have two send effects, like a reverb and a delay. And we have on the stereo output a high-pass filter and a reverb for like build-ups and breaks, and a master EQ and a master compressor. I think that's it for now. Another thing, and that takes time, as I said earlier, we have to search samples for the one-shots and the loops. And let me say it this way, take your time choosing the right sounds and samples, because you want to play live with this thing and you don't want to think about, okay, what do I have on this pad? What do I have on this pad? Is this pad even playable? Or what is this for a weird sound? I don't know if I don't know. Can I tap it? Or I don't know what happens when I tap this. So make yourself a plan, take your time going through your samples and think about one more time before you load something in, and make yourself a plan on how to use them. Think about what you want to play, where you want to place them, what kind of sound you are aiming for. Is it more like a deep house set? Is it more like a straight on techno set? Is it like wee wee wee, or is it like boom 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 boom? You know what I mean? So take your time. So in the best possible way, all your one-shot samples loaded in here are playable and you know where they are. So you can use them like an actual instrument. You get it. Yeah, and that's it for now, I think. Next one would be to add a MIDI controller and go on with samples loaded and drum beat rolling. Yeah, that's a long video, wow. Not making videos for half a year and then the second video like 1 hour long. Okay. All right, so having even one solid template changes productivity completely. You power it on, everything is already there, and you can just start. But where it really becomes a game changer is when you go further and create like different templates for different use cases, different setups, different styles even, or different situations. So like one for a minimal techno session, one for a house session, and maybe one for other genres like synthwave, or maybe one for DnB and jungle and stuff. At that point, you're not just saving time, you're actually building a system for how much fun the whole thing stays. So you build your own ecosystem around you and your own workflows and gear and whatnot that really grows with you and feels actually like an instrument. Now that's it for today, guys. I hope you could take something away from it for your own workflow. Tell me in the comments if you already use templates for your own gear, groove boxes and stuff, or if you have any specific questions regarding the MPC or other pieces of gear, or just producing in general. I will then try to answer them all, or maybe take something from it for my next videos. So thanks for watching until the end, everyone. I really appreciate that. Take care, everyone. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.